We'll be going over IRS Form 5498-SA, HSA, Archer MSA, or Medicare Advantage MSA information. So this is an informational tax return that's generally filed by account custodians, so HSA administrators or MSA administrators, and it's reported usually in the after tax season. So between mid-April and the deadline of May 31st, taxpayers should expect to receive participant copies of this tax form. So you don't have to do anything with this for the filing of your tax return, but in this video, we'll cover down this information for people that might be interested and point out instances where you may want to have this information for reference, in case of tax audit or some other investigative matter. So a couple of points of clarification. IRS Form 5498, there's a series of these documents. So IRS Form 5498 is specifically for IRAs. Could be Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, simple SEP IRAs. 5498-SA is for health savings accounts. We also have IRS Form 5498-QA and 5498-ESA. So the 5498-QA is for an ABLE account contribution. 5498-ESA is for Coverdell education savings accounts. And again, all of these are for contribution reporting. So we'll go over that momentarily. If you're looking for distribution information, that would be on IRS Form 1099, either -SA, -QSA, or QA, so on and so forth. The difference between 1099 forms and Form 5498s is literally the difference between contribution and the distribution. So if you keep that in mind, it will make things a little bit easier. Let's go ahead and go to the left-hand side of this form. As you can see, there's the typical taxpayer information. At the very top, we see the trustee's name, city address, street address, city, state, and zip code, and then their taxpayer ID number, which will most likely be an employer identification number. On the right-hand side of that, you should see your taxpayer ID number. It's going to most likely be your Social Security number if you have one, and it should appear as a redacted version. So there are 3 copies of this form. The first copy goes to the IRS. Second copy goes to the taxpayer, and then the third copy will be retained by your account custodian or the trustee. They all have virtually identical information, so there's not really much difference between these. I've had that question a few times, and generally speaking, other than copy A, copy B, and copy C, and the intended recipient, there's virtually no difference on these forms. So just below that, you'll see taxpayer's name and address, as well as an account number. So a couple things. I always recommend that people keep their tax information or their address up to date with the IRS. And anytime you see an information return, you should review that for accuracy. If you've recently moved, then you'll want to update your address with both the financial institution as well as the IRS. With the IRS, you can update your information either by filing your tax return or by calling the IRS and validating information, or you can file IRS Form 8822, which is the official change of address form. So now we're going to focus on the right-hand side. There are a lot fewer information fields here than there are for the IRA version of this form. So let's go ahead and start with box 1. Box 1 is going to contain either yourself as an employee or yourself as a self-employed individual, your Archer MSA contributions made in the tax year. For the 2023 tax year, they would be either made in 2023 or in 2024 up to the tax filing deadline. So you can see right here that this is factually incorrect because this is reporting Archer MSA contributions. However, box 6 is reporting an HSA. So in a right world, this would look like 0 because this is reporting on your HSA, and no HSA information should appear in box 1. Now, total contributions made during the tax year would appear here in box 2. So this could be either HSA or Archer MSA. In this case, these will be HSA contributions. So this also includes any contribution that you made in 2024 for the 2023 tax year. It also includes something known as a qualified HSA funding distribution. So every taxpayer has a one-time opportunity to take money out of their IRA. It could be a traditional IRA, it could be a Roth IRA, although a Roth IRA would not make sense. You can do that, but you can take this money that would be pre-tax money, transfer it into your HSA, and you don't pay taxes on that. That's considered a trustee-to-trustee transfer. So that would also be included in here. Now, an account custodian can also, but is not required to report any Medicare Advantage MSA contributions. Those are made by the federal government to taxpayers that have a Medicare Advantage MSA or a MA MSA. So that may appear in here. However, the custodian is not required to report that in box 2. In box 3, this would contain any contributions made in the subsequent tax year before the tax filing deadline for that prior year. So because this is the 2023 version, which taxpayers should be expecting to receive by May 31st of 2024, this would be reporting any of those 2024 contributions that were made for the 2023 tax year. This also kind of goes to explain why this form appears so late in the tax year, whereas most other information returns are, the federal government requires that issuers report those by January 31st in virtually all circumstances. The 5498 forms are designed because most taxpayers have the ability to contribute up to the tax filing deadline. So 6 weeks after that, pretty much that due date, that's when these financial institutions are required to make their issue their form 5498s. Box 4 contains any rollover contributions. So in this case, it looks like John Doe made $3,000 of total contributions for his HSA. That also includes, so I apologize, in box 2, the $3,000 would also include any contributions made in 2023 for the 2022 tax year. But the total HSA contributions made in the 2024 tax year for the 2023 tax year appear in box 3. So let's imagine in this situation that this is $3,000 of total contributions that were made in 2023. From this form, you cannot tell if any of this was for the 2022 tax year. It does help you as a taxpayer because you can go back through your records and internally kind of reconcile which contributions were for which tax year based on this information if you keep records on your own. But box 4 contains rollover contributions. So if you're rolling over from another HSA, this would be reported here. This is not included in box 2 at all. So box 4 and box 2 are completely separate. Box 5 contains the fair market value of the HSA, the Archer MSA, or the MSA. There's nothing in the form instructions that tell you, what you can do. I'm trying to see if there's anything in the applicable IRS publication, but I do not think so. So in box 6, it simply reports what type of account this is. So it's a health savings account. It's an Archer MSA. It's an MSA. So let me just really quickly, I'm looking offline to see if there's any reference in IRS publication 969, which covers health savings accounts and MSAs. So I don't see anything right off the top of my head. So there are a couple of references for people in the case that an HSA ceases to be an HSA. So if it's a deemed distribution, and a deemed distribution basically means that you inherited this HSA from someone, or you could have used part of it as a security for a loan. It could be anytime there's a prohibited transaction, then the deemed distribution does depend on the fair market value of that account as of the date that it stops being an account. So, for example, IRS publication 969 says, if you engaged in a transaction prohibited by Internal Revenue Code section 4975 with respect to your HSAs, your account stops being an HSA as of the beginning of the year, and you must include the fair market value of all assets in this account on your IRS form 8889. So if for some reason there's a deemed distribution because it stops being an HSA, if you pass away and it becomes taxable income to the beneficiary, that may happen in the case of a death where the beneficiary is not the spouse. It becomes a deemed distribution. And the same thing with an Archer MSA. So that's the primary reason for reporting fair market value. So there is additional guidance, a little bit more here, instructions for the participant. Basically, it kind of tells you very basic generic guidance on what your contributions should look like, how they should be reported on your Form W-2, how you would report them on IRS Form 8853 or IRS Form 8889, depending on your savings account. We will attach resources or links to resources to all of those forms that we mentioned in this video in the show notes. So that's all we have really for this tax form. Again, it's primarily for informational purposes, but it is prudent to keep this in your records. You should always talk with your tax professional about discarding paperwork that in the case that you think you may not need it. So definitely discuss that with your tax professional before you just discard it. So if you like our articles, you can find the article to this on our website. Simply go to teachmepersonalfinance.com, type in IRS form 5498-SA, and you'll see our article. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions or comments, please post them in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.